Okay, let's unpack this. You've sent us some really compelling sources, articles, reports, notes, all circling around this recent U.S. missile strike. Happened in the Caribbean, suspected drug boat involved. So our mission here for this deep dive is basically to quickly pull out the key insights. We want to cut through the noise, try to understand the legal, ethical, diplomatic fallout from this one event. We're talking, what, 150 nautical miles off Venezuela. The U.S. quickly claimed it was, quote, necessary and proportional, a response to a big cocaine shipment threat. But, well, the sources you sent suggest it's way more complicated than that initial story, right?
Oh, absolutely. What's really fascinating, and it comes through in all the material, is how this action just, well, exploded. It's become a global debate. You've basically got aggressive U.S. extraterritorial law enforcement clashing head-on with these foundational international law principles. We're talking things like UNCLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And, while the U.S. hasn't actually ratified it, they've long accepted chunks of it as customary international law. So that's binding. The real tension, it's how U.S. domestic law, like the MDLEA, that's the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act, how that law asserts this really, really broad jurisdiction, often seems to be in direct opposition to those international norms we just mentioned.
Right, so domestic law bumping up against global standards. And wow, when you dig into the legal side, according to these sources, this strike seems to just, tear through some basic international rules. The first huge red flag, legally speaking, freedom of the high seas. That's not just, a suggestion. It's a core rule. Ships out there in international waters, they generally answer only to their flag state. That's it. So this U.S. missile strike using lethal force all on their own, it just kind of punches a hole right through that principle. Pretty blatant, wouldn't you say?
Extremely blatant. It completely sidesteps the flag state's authority.
Which is the whole point of the rule in the first place.
Exactly. And then there's the argument about hot pursuit.
Ah, yes, hot pursuit. Sounds dramatic, like something from a movie.
Yeah.
But legally, it's super specific, isn't it?
Very specific. For it to even be a possibility, the pursuit must begin inside the coastal state's own waters, like Venezuela's territorial sea or contiguous zone.
And the sources are clear this happened 150 miles out. So hot pursuit. Legally, just no, it doesn't fit.
It's a non-starter, legally speaking.
And then there's the right of visit, too. That's UNCLOS Article 110.
Right, and that only lets you board for really specific things: piracy, stateless vessels, slave trading.
But crucially, not drug trafficking, right?
Correct. Drug trafficking isn't on that list.
Yeah.
And it's a right to inquire, maybe check papers. It's absolutely not a license to use lethal force.
Of course, the sources mentioned the U.S. will probably argue the ship was stateless. Makes it convenient when the ship and its papers are, well, gone.
Precisely. Makes it very hard to challenge that claim after the fact. And moving beyond the pure legal stuff, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ethical and human rights implications here are just profound based on what we're reading. Using military missiles for law enforcement, it's described widely in the sources as grossly disproportionate. Some even call it a premeditated extrajudicial killing.
Because modern navies do have other options, right? Non-lethal ways to stop a boat.
Absolutely. Plenty of non-lethal means. So going straight to a missile strike looks like, well, a denial of any kind of due process for those on board. And you see this pattern, this war on terror language being applied, calling cartels narco-terrorists. It's used to justify military rules of engagement in what should be law enforcement. It kind of echoes some of the worrying human rights issues we've seen in the wider war on drugs, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So it's not just legal tangles or ethical debates. It blew up diplomatically and online, too. Diplomatically, Venezuela instantly called it imperialist aggression. Pretty predictable, perhaps, using it to rally support at home.
Framing themselves as the victim, yeah.
And across Latin America, the sources show it's widely seen as a step backward, a violation of non-intervention principles, which are huge in the region, think the OAS Charter, a return to gunboat diplomacy.
That phrase comes up a lot in the commentary.
Then at the UN Security Council, well, became political theater. The U.S. uses its veto, blocks any real condemnation, so it's just posturing between the big powers.
Standard procedure, unfortunately, when major powers clash.
And online, on social media. Total information battleground. Because there were no independent witnesses.
A vacuum.
Exactly. A vacuum filled by two completely opposing stories. You had the pro-U.S. side, decisive blow, narco-terrorists, #war on drugs. Then the other side, massacre, violation, #U.S. war crimes. Just total echo chambers reflecting those global political splits.
So pulling it all together, what the sources seem to be arguing collectively is that this incident, it's more than just one drug bust gone wrong. It really highlights a kind of unilateral foreign policy. one that seems willing to put its domestic agenda, its war on drugs, above agreed upon international law. And that sets a really dangerous precedent, doesn't it? It suggests that for a powerful enough country, mere suspicion might be enough for, well, summary execution on the high seas. It risks chipping away at the whole framework of the law of the sea, a framework built precisely to prevent this sort of thing. It could even encourage other countries to try similar tactics. So maybe the final thought to leave with you, the listener, is this. Does chasing counter-narcotics goals justify tearing down the very international laws that are meant to stop unilateral force and protect lives at sea? Something to think about.
This is James with PROPICS TV and True Crime and Justice TV. Tonight, Pacific Standard Time at 8 p.m., we're going to be going in depth to the U.S. actions off the coast of Venezuela in international waters, where the U.S. did launch a destructive attack on a suspected drug vessel. However, this has happened in international waters and brings to question, is Donald Trump and his administration allowed to act as judge, jury, and executioner? The phone lines will be open at 1-368-997-6741 for you to participate in the conversation. Once again, we will be talking about the international law, we'll be talking about U.S. law, and whether or not this was justified or it was an act that is clearly extrajudicial murder on the high seas. Once again, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tonight. We will be going in depth to have this conversation. Once again, the phone lines will be open. You can call in via telephone or via WhatsApp. Phone number 1-368-997-6741. Have your say. If you're not going to be available during the program's live stream, by all means, you can also phone in early and leave a voicemail that we can air on the program and explore your comments. And again, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time tonight on PROPICS TV, www.youtube.com/@PROPICS TV. We'll see you there.